Hey everyone, it's Ray. So I'm super excited because it's warm outside and it's almost never warm outside at this time of the month or time of the year in Minneapolis or St. Paul. But today it was like 60 degrees and I was like in a t-shirt and a hat and it was like, oh my God, I'm not cold. So I was really excited about that. And especially after coming from Chicago. I was in Chicago for a conference and like being greeted by like the warm St. Paul sun made me happy. Um, yeah, so the conference I was at was called Color of Violence, which is hosted by Insight, which is a grassroots organization that's supporting like the liberation of women of color and trans people of color. And I was super excited to be there for a lot of reasons. One being the fact that I got to have conversations with other queer and trans Black folks and queer and trans non-Black people of color. And so a conversation we ended up having in the middle of a workshop was around pronouns. And pronouns, we would talk about like the concept of PGPs, which is preferred gender pronouns, and I've come to realize how much I hate that term because preferred almost never refers to like my preference of pronouns, but more of like what the person who is addressing me prefers. And I don't really care about other people's preferences when it comes to my pronouns because I have one. I like one set of pronouns, it's they, them, theirs, and like you can prefer to call me a lot of things, but you can't. Like that's cool if you want to, but like you still can't. So we had this great conversation around what it means to like not consent to people misgendering us as individuals. So I wanted to like stop and have an actual conversation or like vlog about pronouns. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is give a breakdown of normative pronouns and normative personal pronouns. And I want to say that I'm very much so speaking from an English framework. I am a native English speaker, and I live in a country where English is a predominant language spoken. As someone who is also the child of an immigrant, this conversation pronouns around having conversation around my pronouns with my father is very hard because he does not speak English as his first language, and he also moves in the world with people who are from his homeland of Haiti. So he tends to speak either French, Spanish, or Haitian Creole very often. So like I don't know those grammatic structures to say like actually this is how you refer to me. So yeah, I just want to be clear that this is based in English, and not everyone's experience is an experience that is like spoken through the English language. So yeah, so there are a lot of different there are like different pronoun structures, and they're based in what person viewpoint you're speaking from and or if you're plural. So what I mean by that is you have the singular first person, which is I, me, my, because your personal pronouns can do three things. It can make you the subject of a sentence, it can make you the object of a sentence, and it can show your possession. So I, me, my, you will use as a subject, you say I am. As an object, you say this happened to me. As possessive, you say my car looks like. And then you have the singular person, you have the singular second person, which is you, yours. So you said this happened to you, your car looks like this. Then you have the third person singular, which is in a normative structure, either she, her, hers, he, him, his, or its, which is typically when you are referring to a proper noun that is not gendered, such as a building. You tend to not gender buildings, and that will work like just one example of that would be like she said this, her hair looks like this, those toys are hers. And then you have the plural first person, which is we, us, ours. This plural second person, which is you, yours. And the third person plural, which is they, them, theirs. And we'll come back to they, them, theirs because it's also in a non-normative structure used as a first person. Actually, in a normative structure, it is also used as a first person when you're referring to a human being that you do not necessarily know their gender. It has been considered proper English to use she/he, but in a lot of different forms, particularly in literature, people will just say they, instead of referring to she/he as in person. They will say they, or they will say them instead of him or her, and then theirs instead of his and hers. So yeah, like that. Like, that is also technically normative, but a lot of trans people has pushed it into the non-normative, which we'll talk about in a second. Now, a ton of my friends who are trans tell people that pronouns are not that hard. I believe that pronouns are actually really hard. I know I want to say that's not the same thing as saying you don't have to respect someone's pronouns. That's saying that you have to practice and you have to learn how to use the proper pronouns with someone. And that doesn't mean that like you can practice when you see them and misgender them. No, because misgendering someone is an act of violence and you shouldn't do that. But if you're going to stand in solidarity with trans folks, it means that you have to learn how to use pronouns on your own time, and that doesn't hurt or inconvenience a trans person. That is what it means to be actively standing in solidarity with trans people. Trust me, I do it too, because zers is a pronoun that like I didn't encounter very often, and then I met someone who was like super awesome, and I was like, I need to get this person's pronouns right. And I talked to one of my friends who is actually cisgender but very good at pronouns, and I was like, hey, I would have a conversation with you about this person. This person uses zers as pronouns. And then we had a conversation. And every time that I misgender this person in private, my best friend was very clear, like, you're messing up their pronouns. And that was me actively supporting another trans body by learning how to use their pronouns properly and learning how to not misgender them. So when I talk to that person, or I talk about that person to other people, I'm not misgendering them. And it's like, it's a great thing to do. And I like when I say that pronouns aren't easy, I do mean that. I think of like using the right pronouns a lot like pooping. And you're probably saying, what? And I mean, yes, like pronouns are a lot like pooping. And you're probably thinking, no, pooping's pretty easy and pretty standard. But that's what you're saying now as someone who poops and wipes their own butt. But if you think back to however long ago when you were like a year and a half, at that point in life, you were actually just pooping into a diaper. Someone was wiping your butt. And maybe, I know my mom did, they would put lotion on your butt when they were done wiping up your poop. And then someone set a potty in front of you and like, you need to learn how to poop by yourself. And you need to wipe your own butt. And you probably aren't going to put lotion on your own butt, but you should. And like, you have to do this. And at that point in life, pooping was really hard because someone was saying to you, you need to poop and clean up your own poop when you're done after a year and a half of being socialized to poop into a diaper. So pronouns is a lot like pooping. Like, you can't not poop in a toilet and wipe yourself because then you like kind of poop on yourself and you smell bad. But you still have to practice it, and that's why you have a potty. And like, that's how pronouns are. Like, you can't not use someone's proper pronouns, but you have to practice it. And like, that's totally okay. Like, it is totally okay to practice someone's pronouns. And like, you know, I'm sure you may not remember that moment, but I'm positive that when you finally pooped and it was consistent and you were consistently pooping all the time and wiping your own butt and not pooping on yourself, you were really proud of yourself. I mean, I know my brother, when he was like 3 and he finally got the concept of like, I wasn't gonna wipe his poop up anymore, he started pooping in the potty and like wiping himself, and he was so proud of himself. We went to the mall one day and he's like, I have to go to the bathroom, and he went to the bathroom and he didn't poop on himself. He like wiped his own self. He went to the bathroom by himself. It was great, and it was like, oh my god, look at you. He just felt like he had just won $1 million. And that, my friends, is how you learn how to use people's pronouns. You just think about learning how to poop all over again. And eventually it will become second nature. Like, it is very normative and very like normal for everyone to be like, oh, I have to poop. Let me go to the bathroom. Is there toilet paper before I poop? And wiping ourselves, washing our hands, leaving the bathroom. That is a very normative thing for us. Pooping is normative and like normal and easy and simple. And that is how pronouns will be if you practice. You just have to practice, right? Like, believe it or not, there's a point in time where you did not know how to poop by yourself and wipe yourself. And like, there's going to be a point in time where you meet someone that you don't know how to gender properly. And how do you learn how to do that? You practice. And you practice without them being in sight or like having to deal with the violence of you misgendering them. But you do have to practice. And then it will be second nature, just like pooping. And that's it. Like, pronouns are really just like pooping, and think about it that way. And it's not easy. Pooping wasn't easy when you're like first when you were first getting potty trained. That doesn't mean that you didn't have to do it, right? Just think of that. Like, learning someone's pronouns is not easy, but you do have to do it. That's it. That's all I have to say. Pronouns, using the right pronouns is a lot like pooping. That's it.